Welcome everyone to the next installment of the Restoration Technical Webinar Series delivered by Fisheries and Oceans Canada and co-hosted with the Pacific Salmon Foundation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dale Desrochers, and I'm the Regional Manager for the Restoration Center of Expertise of the Salmon Enhancement Program. Before I introduce today's session, let me first acknowledge that I'm talking to you today from Vancouver, the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Our topic today is centered around restoration monitoring. We have a series of experts lined up to provide you with academic, technical, and practical aspects of undertaking restoration monitoring, with the goal of informing restoration practitioners of the importance in undertaking monitoring to assess the successes of our restoration actions. This information exchange will be led by my fellow DFO colleague Christina Czembor and our Pacific Salmon Foundation co-host Jason Hwang. I hope each of you enjoy this session, and I look forward to today's interactions with our panel of experts. Jason, I will now pass it over to you for some opening remarks and webinar housekeeping items, and then to Chrissy for an introduction of herself and our first speaker.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dale. My name is Jason Hwang, and I'm with Pacific Salmon Foundation. So why are we doing this session today? Restoration monitoring. So what? Who cares? Well, there's been a strong history of habitat restoration work in British Columbia and in the Yukon, but it's not necessarily clear if we know what is working and what is not. Can we learn how to plan and undertake more effective monitoring and how to get more out of monitoring we are doing on our projects? There is a lot of money out there for restoration. DFO has put about $146 million into restoration just since 2014 through at least 9 different funding programs. Along the same lines, British Columbia just announced a $100 million watershed security fund. And PSF, as an example of non-government organizations, has been funding projects for over 30 years. With the huge money flowing out of government and non-government sources for restoration, there's a significant need for those receiving the funding to also be able to make sure there's appropriate monitoring and assessment of their projects. I think we've got a lot to learn in terms of what is working and what is not. How do we know if a project we fund or undertake is making a difference for fish? Are we working on the most important things for salmon? Maybe simple measures like, is my project still there after a flood, or are fish using the site are good enough? But can we go further with our monitoring? What if all we're doing is moving the same number of fish around to different habitats in the same stream, but at the end of the day, the stream still produces the same number of fish? If there are multiple ideas on restoration projects that could be done in your watershed, how can you use monitoring and evidence to identify the projects that are most likely to provide the best benefit? Additionally, climate change is probably changing things, even if we do have monitoring from past projects. Those findings may not be relevant now if ecological conditions are different. There is a lot of science out there that can help, but the restoration community has tended to be more focused on doing more projects and less so on understanding the results and effectiveness of the work that we've done to date. So we've got a great group of speakers, and we thank all of them for sharing their knowledge with us today. And just as a general overview of the day, we're going to start our morning session with perspectives on the science around monitoring, and then this afternoon we'll move on to applied examples of monitoring. You'll be able to send us questions to pose to our speakers via Slido. You can see the connection there in the bottom banner of your screen. And we're hoping to have a question or two after each talk, and then we'll also have a panel session with all of our morning speakers for about 45 minutes before lunch, and we'll have a similar panel with our afternoon speakers. And all of the material today is being recorded, and it will be available after the session on our PSF website. I'm now going to pass things over to Chrissy from DFO for a little bit of additional context and to introduce our first speaker.
Good morning. My name is Chrissy Czembor, and I'm a restoration biologist with DFO's Center of Restoration Expertise. I'm based on Vancouver Island, and I'm in the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. And through my work with DFO, I'm really grateful to work directly with many First Nations across the island and the Sunshine Coast, helping them to improve habitat conditions for salmon in their territories. Before we turn to our speakers, I'd like to take a quick moment to highlight some work that's happening that's relevant to our discussion today. Late last year, DFO's science branch started a program helping to coordinate enhanced ecosystem monitoring and assessment for Pacific salmon. I'm currently working with this team, and we collaborate across DFO programs with First Nations and partners, including PSF, through the region to provide guidance for how we can consistently monitor and assess salmon and their habitats across all their life stages. We, and by that I mean DFO and all of the partners, are working to, 1, identify revised, meaningful freshwater, estuarine, and marine metrics for salmon, to define existing or new standardized protocols to consistently monitor and analyze salmon metrics, and 3, to identify or develop open repositories for all data collected through salmon monitoring programs. Given this focus, I'm very pleased to be here today and to be part of this relevant and timely conversation focused on restoration monitoring. As Jason mentioned, monitoring restoration projects to identify effectiveness for fish is necessary to understand what worked, what didn't, and what we can do differently next time. If we fail to monitor, or we monitor uninformative parameters, or as these textbooks here show, we all monitor different things, there's lots of options for us. When we do that, we won't learn and we can't compare results from all the restoration work that we're doing. This is why there's so much importance placed on standardized monitoring and assessment and centralizing and sharing data. The speakers who have been invited here today are experts in designing and implementing monitoring programs for fish. Through their breadth of knowledge and experience, we hope that each of you will learn something new about effectiveness monitoring and will have a deeper appreciation for the value of monitoring to all restoration practitioners. We hope that you'll also take away the importance of monitoring in consistent ways that allow us to coordinate and share our data and results.